So I'm into that. I like Christmas carols, you know, people coming together. No, I do. I love Christmas carols.
Me too.
I really do, because they talk about baby Jesus and whatever. I think Jesus was a real guy. His name was Yeshua or Joshua. I'm into the history of it. And I think making him the Son of God actually takes away the amazing thing that this bloke did, who I think was like a Muhammad, and you know, in the Islamic faith, Muhammad's a prophet, and Jesus, Yeshua, or Joshua was his real name, he's a prophet, and as a real person went out and said, let's readjust the Jewish faith. I think it's got locked into big hats and weird stuff, and let's just go and chill out, and went into a kind of a hippie thing, and then I think the Pharisees said, he's getting a bit of a following. Let's tell the Romans that he's done stuff that's really not good. And then there's crucifixion. And in the truth, and then St. Paul was the one who kicked up the thing. And he was from Turkey. He was a bloke from Turkey who came in and said, I love what you're doing, guys, and I'm carrying it on over there. And they said,
sign me up.
Yeah. If you read about the story, now the exact history of it is fantastic. It's really interesting. And wise men, I call them wise men. Wise men, you know that Gandhi and Nelson Mandela would have been deities if it had been a few hundred years before, 1,000 years before, 2,000 years before. We'd have said, what amazing things they've done. They must have been gods. But in fact, they were just really good spiritual people.
Go back to the lighting of the candle thing. The architecture, the work that goes into it, the history, that's cool. But to think about your mother, and lots of people go through the process of lighting. Why the lighting of the candle?
I don't know. I think it just feels nice. It feels spiritual. I'm a spiritual atheist. I thought of this thing. Well, no, that's what I feel. Because the spirituality, you know, even just in here, we're watching, we're talking, you guys are listening. You're obviously a socially progressive audience, otherwise you wouldn't be here. You know, you're not expecting Nazis to come on. Or if they do come on, then you're saying, well, why does a guy think in a Nazi way?
Yeah.
So that thing we can tap into, that thing that Obama tapped into, and that reality thing, even though there's lots of TV stuff and everything's very polished, when people talk and try and put their mind out there. As soon as I said I was a transvestite, I went onto this reality footing that I realised was some people, a lot of people sort of thought, well, fair play, at least you've come out and put a dress on and said, that's true about me, and I will take whatever screaming, some people scream abuse at you and whatever, or fight you in the streets.
Do you still get that? You're past
I
that now.
would. I've been in boy mode for a while, so I haven't been back. But there's definite different stress levels, you know, if I'm going out girl mode as opposed to boy mode. But I would get it. I'm sure I could go to I could find places, and if I went to certain countries, it would be probably illegal, and you know, terrible things could happen. But it's something you have to be ready for if you come out.
We'll find out more about strips and also best and worst with Eddie Izzard when we come back. What's the worst thing about falling asleep with your makeup on?
I quite like it, actually.
All right, come back tomorrow from New Kids on the Block. Joey McIntyre will be here, and on Thursday, one of our good friends, you never know what he's going to say, Kevin Smith, is this week on The Hour. Back here on The Hour, hanging out with Eddie Izzard. I know that you used to marathon. Do you still marathon?
Yeah, I do marathons. I just sort of go out and do them. Well, it's weird, because I did 43 in 51 days, which isn't... Is it Terry Fox who...
Yeah, and his thing is... But 40-51 is a lot.
He did 143, yeah? With no days off?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is beyond amazing. Yeah. And so mine is nothing compared to that. But it's obviously he had it here. He decided that's what will happen. And it's again the belief thing. We can do way more than we think we can do. World War II, you know, everyone did amazing stuff. Canada, I'd like to say thank you to Canada for coming and helping us out, because we did brilliantly. Because I know Canadians were there. I know Canadians had a really rough time at Dieppe, which was a practice for D-Day, and I know that you were on Gold Sword and Juno with us, and the Free French, and the Americans were there, which is great, but they have covered that. In Saving Private Ryan, I did complain that none of us guys were sort of there. They just needed to swing the camera over to show us on different beaches. But in World War II, people did amazing things that they weren't planning to do.
Being a guy who loves history, then, and obviously you're up on what happened in the different wars. When you get into Valkyrie, and I mean you're a Valkyrie with Tom Cruise, you have a big sense of what's happened in that war.
Yeah, I knew absolutely all about that. I wasn't encyclopedic on the attempted assassination of Hitler. It's the one film where British kids can sit down and German kids can sit down, and everyone's trying to kill Hitler. So it's great that it's out there. And they know.
It must be fun for you to be a part of something like that too, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit best of worst. I'm going to throw some things towards you, and you just tell me what you think. All right. What's the worst thing about falling asleep with your makeup on?
I quite like it, actually. I quite like the fact that I'm allowed to do it. The worst thing, you just do look like a badger who's put a lot of makeup on. That's the only thing. Yeah, it's probably your pillow looks bizarre.
What's the best compliment you've ever been paid?
After I'd come out as a transvestite, I was in a shop and there was a guy who was looking at me strangely. He was a rather tall guy, rather built guy, and he looked at me and I thought he was going to hit me, but he said just, he had struggled to say it, but he said, just thank you for what you've done, and I knew what he meant, and I think this guy could well have been a transvestite who just couldn't be out with it, and I think that really sort of got in there, so I just thought that was positive.
What's the best Monty Python sketch ever?
My one that I like repeating endlessly, well, the Four Yorkshiremen, which is a sort of a Monty Python one, I love, but there's strange women lying about the ponds distributing swords is not a basis for a system of government. Supreme executive power derived from a mandate for the masses, not some farcical aquatic ceremony. That one from Holy Grail that Michael Palin did.
The documentary is called Believe, and you should see his new tour, which is called Strip. Hits Canada at the end of the month. CBC.ca/the hour. We've got all the tour dates for you. Eddie Izzard.
Thank you.